Up there is me. That was probably 1965. And you notice the vacuum cleaner beside him. You kind of figure out why I had an interest early on in vacuum cleaners. Became important further down the road. You could switch. In my day job as a builder, I built some interesting projects with Kenelex Construction. Up in the top left there, that's an award-winning project that we did in the west end of town. That's the old Pinewood School tear down. We rebuilt Woodland School. The architect there was Mitchell Jensen Architects. Over to the right was another award-winning school that we did. It was St. Victor's School in Mattawa. That was LaRock Elder Architects. In the bottom is the Hands Family Health Network building on Oak Street, another interesting project that I was a project manager on. But my favorite project, you can kind of see that picture in the middle. If you took a walk around here, you'd see that. It's familiar. It's the NUSU building. And I'm extremely proud about this project. And I want to thank the NUSU team and the team from Nipissing University for giving Kenelex Construction and myself the opportunity as a local general contractor to build this high-tech facility here in North Bay. There was people, Warren Lindsay, Dave Drent, and a whole lot of other people that were involved. Special shout out to the Kenelex guys that are in the crowd. Sandy Graham, GM, General Manager. Jesse Graham was actually my son. He was the site superintendent on this project who was here every day during COVID to help get this building out of the ground. But enough about that. Let's get ignited. Next slide. I think the word ignite, I better put on my glasses here. I think the word ignite fits rather nicely in the discussion around entrepreneurship and innovation. This is the definition of ignite. Ignite, to set a fire, to cause to burn, to render luminous by heat, to heat up, excite, to set in motion, spark. And who better than a guy named Bernie to talk about this? Next slide. Here's a question for you. What moves faster uphill than downhill? Anybody have a guess? Fire? Good guess. That's correct, but there's something else that moves faster uphill, or should move faster uphill than downhill. And if you could give the next slide. A successful entrepreneur. Be prepared for adversity in your struggles uphill. In fact, thinking back on my experiences, if I had known then what I know now, I may have never moved forward with some of my ideas. However, thankfully, entrepreneurs can't see the future. The successful ones envision only success as they constantly push forward like fire up that hill. So next slide. As you move up that hill, be bold, be agile, be focused, be driven. Those are key attributes that I think you have to embody as an entrepreneur. I've developed angels, actually. Speaking of angels invest in people, as far as I'm concerned. They don't necessarily just invest in the idea or the product. I think you have to exude these qualities, and you will be have the ability to catch an angel. I've developed a few different products. Some have been hits, and some have been misses. But it was boldness and confidence that got the Steady Stick, a ride guide for children bicycles, into Home Hardware, Canadian Tire, and on QVC, and the home shopping channel in the United States. And a shout out to Bill Eberhardt, who helped me with that. He's in the crowd. And then the pad pivot. my portable stand for iPads, phones, and e-readers into Best Buy. But now let's move to the vac pen, where some bold confidence really paid off. If you can go to the next slide. Nope. So, anybody out there seen a vac pan? It's an interesting little idea as I came up with. And if you don't know what it is, I suggest just Google it. Google images, you'll see hundreds and thousands of vac pans. I started with a hand-cut prototype that I built, a fax machine, and a computer. And with that, within 3 years from the start of Vacuum King developments, the vac pan became the most successful central vacuum accessory in the market, and remains that to this day. It was the boldness that opened up doors to success. If you look at the slide up in the upper right-hand corner, there's an award. That award is for Best New Home Improvement Product at the Canadian Hardware and Houseware Show in Toronto. It's billed as the third largest trade show, hardware show in the world. At that show, I entered that show because I had to start to create some buzz. So I thought about what I had to do. So I went to this show, and I knew at that show they had this award. So I would eyeball around the crowd, and I would look for those judges and those media people, and I would drag them over to my booth and throw a few Fruit Loops on the floor, sweep them up in the central vacuum system, and they were kind of, wow, that's pretty cool. And as the day went on, more and more of these people kept dropping by the booth. And lo and behold, what happened at the end of the event, they awarded me the best new Canadian home improvement product. So I was pretty stoked. I was pretty happy about that. So with the idea of being bold, I decided I'm going to get on the phone right from the trade show. We had payphones back then. Pulled out the yellow pages, looked up CBC radio, as it happens. I called the number and I said, they answered on the phone, as it happens, can I help you? And I said, well, I would like to speak to one of your producers. And they said, oh, would you? I said, yes, I'd like to. And they said, well, what are you calling about? And I said, well, I just won the best new home improvement product at the Canadian Hardware Show. And they said, well, let me see what I can do. The next person got on the line said, hello. And I said, hello, my name's BernieGraham. I'm inventor of the vac pan. And I just won the best new home improvement product at the Canadian Hardware Show. And I think that might be a good topic for an interview. And the woman on the line said, well, geez, congratulations. She said, you know what you should do? You should get a news release, get your team to put together a news release, send it to us, and we'll review the news release. And if we think it has merit, we'll give you a call back, and you might have an opportunity of an interview. And I said, oh, hold on. I had to be a little bold. I said, well, you know what? What's the name of your show? What's the name of the show? She goes, it's As It Happens. I said, well, you know what? I'm standing on the floor of this trade show, As It Happens, just won the best new Canadian home improvement product, and I think somebody might want to talk to me. Can you see what you can do? So the lady said, well, I'll put you on hold. So the next thing that happens, you can hit the next slide. The gentleman gets on the phone. He says, hello, Mr. Graham. My name's Michael Enright. I don't know if you know who Michael Enright was, and As It Happens, but it's a very large radio show across the country and across the northern United States. Michael says, Mr. Graham, I hear you invented something and you just won a prestigious award. I said, oh, Michael, yeah, I did. I invented this a new product, and I was so excited. But, you know, I'm excited to talk to you. I listen to you every day at 6:30 on my radio as I'm sweeping up the floor after my 3 children. And he goes, oh. He says, well, tell me about your invention. I said, my invention is this thing called a vac pan. It's a central vacuum inlet that you put under the toe kick of your kitchen cabinet. You sweep all your dirt over there and whoosh, it's gone. And he goes, wow, that's very, very cool. Fantastic. But Mr. Graham, are you a bit of a clean freak? So we had an excellent interview. He was a very genuine and polite gentleman. And that show started the whole buzz for me. I would go to trade shows, and then numerous people would come up to me after that and say, you know, I heard your interview on As It Happens. So with that, you could click. I started moving forward, and I came to this word, the word agile. When you're doing innovation or you're an entrepreneur, as I was, I always kept the idea of being agile. And this is an opportunity, I think, for the city of North Bay could exercise. You have to be able to move quickly and smartly. I try to keep things as simple as possible. Resist analysis to paralysis. Don't let perfection be the enemy of the good. Be agile. Here's an example of some agility that we pulled out of our hat, I guess. Next slide. So in the vacuum cleaner world, there's a trade association called the Vacuum Cleaner Trade Association. I know vacuums are not the sexiest commercial product in the world, not the great big idea, but I tell you, they sell a hell of a lot of vacuums. So we joined the trade association, and they have these trades conventions. There was one in Washington, D.C., and then the big one is in Las Vegas. So I packed up my van from North Bay with all my display, and me and my brother jumped, and we drove overnight all the way down to Washington, D.C., and did our first trade show at the convention. And we were trying to create buzz. I had in my mind, I knew that this little device, VacPan, is going to help all these vacuum dealers and the manufacturers sell a hell of a lot more central vacuum systems. So I went with that show with that in mind. And when I hit the show, the vacuum dealers at the first show were very enthusiastic. They loved the product. I showed it to them. And some of the major dealers started picking up, and a couple of small distributors. Distribution is critical. If you can't get your idea for the best bread out to the market and get the distribution, you're sunk. So we started some distribution, we started some sales, and things started rolling. And we were producing the VacPan. With my fax machine and my computer, I was taking orders in North Bay, having them manufactured, unfortunately, in Southern Ontario. It would have been beautiful to do it up here in North Bay, but at the time, there wasn't a plastics company could do this type of work. So anyway, we were producing the product. And we decided to go to the next show. It was in Las Vegas. And we hit Las Vegas. We're in a 10 by 10 booth back in the corner of this big convention center, and it was huge. And we discovered a competitor. And the competitor was a big company. And they had a booth with 6 10 by 10 squares, and they had the furniture set up, and they had the bar, and they had cookies and everything. They had all the dealers around. We're off in some little spot off in the corner. Anyway, they even had a magician. So we do the first day, and at the end of the day, we kind of had a little group. I had my 2 angel investors with me, and my other brother, he joined us, and he's a bit of a character, and he said, I'd like to convene a meeting at the bar. We'll see you there at 8 o'clock. Went to the bar. He says, I want to nominate myself as head of marketing for the show. So yeah, took a vote, said, okay, Brian, you've got the green light. You're head of marketing. What are you going to do? He says, just trust me. We're a small group. We weren't a big group. It's a small idea. It's a central vacuum inlet. You know, we're guys from North Bay. We're having fun. We're going to make this happen. Well, what happens? Brian shows up at the show in the morning, and he's got a showgirl on his arm. And I tell you, we had the mom and pop vacuum dealers lined up around our booth and down the aisles to come see Belinda, the vacuum queen. And it was a huge success, but that's the idea of thinking fast on your feet and being agile. We had a lot of fun at that show, and the OEMs got interested. So Brian couldn't resist this. At the end of the show, he's walking by the big competitor's booth, and he says, well, you boys might have been pulling rabbits out of your hat. We pulled Las Vegas showgirls out of ours. So it was a great success. Where am I at here? And that's what the idea of being bold and agile is. And at these shows, you create relationships. And at further shows down the road, you can go to the next slide, we would meet these vacuum dealers. So, you know, what does Mario Andretti and Hulk Hogan have in common? Vac pans. I was at a trade show, and one of the largest dealers was there, and he came up to me at the trade show, and he said, you know, I just love your product. I got to tell you a story. I had this builder was building, and he's building for mansions for Hulk Hogan and Mario Andretti, and he had 3 of your vac pans in the product. But when their wives came and looked at it, Hulk Hogan's wife wanted 12, and Mario Andretti wanted 20. So it's amazing when you have these relationships that you build at these trade shows with people, and the interesting stories that come along. But I think a lot of that has to do with being bold, being driven, and being focused. And finally, the OEMs came along, and that's when, if you go to the next slide, I saw my product on the Oprah Winfrey Show. That's where this small little device went from North Bay to vacuum dealers, to OEM manufacturers, and it was distributed not only in Northern Ontario, North America, and around the world. The vac pan is probably sold more than 4.5 million units at this point, maybe more. So that's the vac pan story. If you go to click the next unit. Although my ideas on these things, the vac pan, steady sticks, and pad pivot, are smaller ideas, you can do it from here and sell anywhere. So that's the mentality that I think you have to have. That's where the big idea I had was to be able to come up with an idea, a product here, and sell it everywhere or anywhere. You click to the next page. So this next adventure that I was on, you know, we have all these things available to you here now in North Bay. You have angel investors, crowdsource collaboration, crowdsource funding, 3D printing, fulfillment houses, e-commerce, internet, social media. If some of the students from universities and in Canada or college can access and put these things together, it's certainly possible to come up with any idea through iCamp, through these institutions to bring these things forward. The idea here is, in the bottom right-hand corner, you can see me sitting there in front of my computer, and that's me during a Kickstarter campaign. So I came up with this product called the Pad Pivot. It was a device that held iPads and e-readers. And we ran a Kickstarter campaign. That's where you generate funds from a crowdsourced community. I've used angel investing in itself, but I wanted to try something new here that was innovative. So I teamed up with a guy from Seattle, Washington, who I met on another social site called Quirky, where industrial designers get together, compete to develop new products. I met this gentleman there. The Kickstarter campaign, you couldn't be Canadian and run it at the time. So I teamed up with him and I said, his name was Jim Young. I said, Jim, you want to do a Kickstarter campaign with me? I got this great idea, the Pad Pivot. We could collaborate together. We'll finalize the design. We'll run it on Kickstarter. I will pay you 50% of the profits that we make from the Kickstarter campaign to fund your industrial design for me. And then all the IP, all the marketing, everything else that is generated outside the Kickstarter, after the Kickstarter campaign is 100% mine, because the idea was all mine. Fortunate for me, Jim was game. So we started the Kickstarter campaign. And at the time, we had a goal of $10,000. And we ended up raising $260,000. We had about 4,800 backers. Those were basically investors who bought the product. These were all from around the world. So using 3D printing, using social media, using all these things that are available to anybody in North Bay, we were able to get out there and make that impact. We then had Best Buy give us a call and place an order for 50,000 units. So being bold, being agile, focused, and driven. Find yourself a good angel. If you can click to the next slide. Be bold, be agile, be focused, be driven. Find an angel and be like fire. Thank you.